The morning air felt heavy with mist as Robert Chen walked through the iron gates of Oakwood Cemetery. It was exactly 5 years since the accident. 5 years since he had lost both his son and wife in a single moment that had torn his world apart. Robert pulled his coat tighter around himself. Despite being worth billions, he dressed simply today. Dark jeans, a gray sweater, and a black wool coat. His driver had offered to accompany him, but Robert preferred to be alone on these visits. The path to Alex's grave was one he knew by heart, a journey he made 4 times each year. Alex's birthday, the anniversary of the accident, Christmas, and Father's Day. The cemetery was quiet this early. Only the occasional groundskeeper moved among the stones, tending to the endless task of keeping nature at bay. Robert nodded politely when one looked up, then continued walking, his expensive leather shoes crunching on the gravel path. He carried a small bouquet of sunflowers, Alex's favorite. As he rounded the bend where the path split toward the eastern section, Robert stopped suddenly. There, kneeling in front of his son's grave, was a small figure. A boy. He couldn't have been more than 12 years old, thin and wearing a jacket that seemed too large for his frame. The boy's head was bowed and he appeared to be talking quietly. Robert stood frozen, unsure whether to approach or wait. In 5 years, he had never encountered anyone else at Alex's grave. The plot was in a private section of the cemetery, purchased, along with 11 surrounding plots to ensure Alex would rest undisturbed. Robert had made sure of that. After a moment's hesitation, he continued forward, his footsteps deliberately heavier to alert the boy to his presence. The child looked up startled. When he saw Robert, he scrambled to his feet, nearly tripping over his untied shoelace. "I'm sorry," the boy said quickly. "I wasn't doing anything wrong, I promise." Robert studied him more closely now. The boy had dark eyes that seemed too serious for his age, and black hair that fell across his forehead in need of a cut. His jacket was clean but worn at the elbows, and his sneakers had seen better days. "This is my son's grave," Robert said simply, his voice sounding rougher than he intended. The boy's eyes widened. "Oh, I know it's Alex Chen. It says so right there." He pointed to the marble headstone with its elegant lettering. "I'm really sorry if I wasn't supposed to be here." Robert placed the sunflowers at the base of the headstone before asking, "Did you know my son?" The boy shook his head. "No, sir. I never met him." "Then why are you here?" Robert couldn't keep the confusion from his voice. The boy looked down at his shoes, scuffing one against the damp grass. "It's kind of a long story and probably weird." Robert checked his watch. He had cleared his entire morning for this visit, as he always did. "I have time." The boy hesitated, then nodded toward a nearby bench. "Could we sit? My mom says I should always look at people when I'm explaining something important." Something about the seriousness of this request made Robert nod. They walked to the bench in silence, and Robert noticed the boy was careful to keep a respectful distance from the grave as they passed it. Once seated, the boy took a deep breath. "My name's Tyler Williams. I started coming here about 8 months ago when my mom got sick. She has cancer." He said this matter-of-factly, the way children sometimes do with life-altering information. "The hospital where she gets her treatments is just down the road. Sometimes when she has long appointments, I come here to wait. It's peaceful." Robert listened, wondering where this story was leading. "The first time I came, I was just walking around and I found this section. It's nicer than the other parts with better grass and stuff." Tyler gestured around them. "I saw Alex's stone, and I noticed something." "What was that?" Robert asked quietly. "He died on my birthday." Tyler's voice grew softer. "October 17th. I turned 5 that day, and the stone said he was 15 when he died. That's 3 times my age then. I don't know, it just seemed important somehow." Robert felt something shift in his chest, a small movement in the solid block of grief he had carried for 5 years. "So I sat down and started talking to him," Tyler continued. "At first just to say hi and tell him it was weird we shared that day. But then I kept coming back. I'd tell him about school or what was happening with my mom. It made me feel better, like maybe he was listening. "What do you talk about?" Robert asked, surprised at his own curiosity. Tyler shrugged. "Different stuff. Today I was telling him about my science project. I'm building a small solar panel system. My teacher says it's good, but I can't get it to store energy right." His face brightened with enthusiasm. "I wanted to make something that could help my mom charge her phone at the hospital without having to find an outlet all the time." Robert found himself leaning forward slightly. "That's actually quite advanced for someone your age. I like figuring out how things work," Tyler said with another shrug, as if this explained everything. "The library has books about it, and there are videos online I can watch at school." "You don't have internet at home?" Tyler's expression changed, slightly. "We did, but we had to cut back on stuff when Mom got sick. She still works at the grocery store when she feels okay, but it's not enough for extra things anymore." Robert nodded, understanding more than Tyler probably realized. Before, his company had taken off. Robert had grown up in a household where cutting back was a regular occurrence. "I'm sorry if I shouldn't be here," Tyler said again. "I can find somewhere else to go." Robert surprised himself by saying, "No, it's all right. I think Alex would have liked the company." The boy's face relaxed into a small smile. "Really? You're not mad?" "No, I'm not mad." And strangely, he wasn't. There was something disarming about Tyler's honest explanation. "Tell me more about this solar panel project." Tyler's entire demeanor changed as he began explaining his design, using his hands to illustrate how the panels connected and the problems he was having with the battery setup. Robert found himself asking questions, pointing out potential solutions, drawn into the boy's enthusiasm. "Wait," Tyler said suddenly, interrupting his own detailed description of wire connections. "Are you Robert Chen? Like Chen Technologies, Robert Chen?" Robert nodded, a small smile touching his lips at the boys. Delayed recognition. Whoa. Tyler's eyes grew wide. "You invented the microgrid system. We learned about it in school. Our teacher said it changed how people think about energy distribution." "That was a long time ago," Robert said, feeling strangely modest under the boy's admiring gaze. "It's still amazing," Tyler insisted. "I read everything I could find about it at the library." They fell into a comfortable conversation about energy systems, Robert explaining concepts in simple terms while Tyler absorbed every word. It was the longest conversation Robert had had with anyone about his actual work, not business or profits, in years. A beeping sound interrupted them. Tyler pulled an old flip phone from his pocket and checked it. "That's my alarm. My mom's appointment should be ending soon. I need to go meet her." Robert felt an unexpected disappointment as the boy stood up. "Of course." Tyler walked back to Alex's grave and placed his hand gently on top of the stone. "Bye, Alex. Thanks for listening. Again. I'll come back next week and tell you if Mr. Chen's ideas helped with my project." The simple gesture caught Robert off guard, and he felt a tightness in his throat that hadn't been there moments before. "Do you come here every week?" he found himself asking as Tyler turned to leave. "Thursdays." Tyler nodded. "Mom has her long treatment then." Robert hesitated, then said, "Perhaps I'll see you next Thursday then." Something bright flashed across Tyler's face. "That would be cool, I mean, if you want to." "I think I do," Robert said, surprising himself again. As he watched Tyler walk away, Robert turned back to his son's grave. For the first time in 5 years, he felt something different in the hollow space where his heart used to be. Not happiness. He wasn't sure he remembered what that felt like anymore, but something close to purpose. He placed his hand on the cool marble, just as Tyler had done. "I'll be back next week, Alex," he whispered. "I think you'd like this kid. He reminds me of you." Walking back to his car, Robert pulled out his phone and called his assistant. "Clear my schedule for Thursday mornings indefinitely," he said, "and find out everything you can about solar energy storage systems for small-scale applications." The misty morning had cleared while he'd been talking with Tyler, and for the first time in years, Robert noticed how blue the sky was above the cemetery gates. For the first time in years, Robert found himself watching the clock on Thursday morning. He arrived at the cemetery 30 minutes earlier than the week before, half expecting Tyler not to show up. Perhaps the boy had simply been polite, or maybe his mother's treatment schedule had changed. Robert sat on the bench near Alex's grave, a leather portfolio case beside him filled with printouts on small-scale solar energy systems. His research team had been confused by his sudden interest in such basic technology, but they'd provided what he asked for without question. That was the benefit of being the boss. No one questioned your strange requests. The sound of footsteps on gravel made him look up. Tyler was walking quickly down the path, his oversized jacket flapping slightly in the breeze. When he spotted Robert, his serious face broke into a grin. "You really came," Tyler said, slightly out of breath. "I said I would," Robert replied, moving the portfolio to make room on the bench. Tyler sat down, leaving a respectful distance between them. "I didn't know if you meant it. Adults sometimes say they'll do things and then get too busy." The simple observation carried no judgment, but Robert felt its truth like a gentle rebuke. How many promises had he broken over the years because he was too busy? "I brought some information that might help with your solar project," Robert said, changing the subject as he opened the portfolio. Tyler's eyes widened at the diagrams and technical specifications. "Whoa, this is way better than the stuff I found." At the library. For the next hour, they discussed possible designs. Robert was impressed by how quickly Tyler grasped concepts that most adults would struggle to understand. The boy asked intelligent questions and took careful notes in a small spiral notebook with a worn cover. "So if I add a second capacitor, here," Tyler said, pointing to his rough sketch, "it would hold more charge without overloading the system?" "Exactly," Robert nodded. "Though you'll need to make sure it's the right voltage rating." Tyler sighed, closing his notebook. "That's going to be the hard part. The components I need are expensive. My teacher said she might be able to get some from the high school supply room, but I don't know." Robert hesitated, then asked casually, "What would your budget be for this project?" Tyler's face scrunched in concentration. "I've saved $27 from helping our neighbor walk her dog, and my mom said she could maybe give me $15 if her next paycheck is good." He looked up at Robert. "Is that enough?" Robert thought about the meeting he'd had yesterday, approving a $50 million research budget without blinking. The contrast made him feel strangely off balance. "It might be tight," he said carefully. "What if I could help you get the parts you need?" Tyler's expression grew guarded. "That's nice of you, but my mom says we don't take handouts. She works really hard, so I learned the value of earning things." Robert respected the pride in the boy's voice. "What if it wasn't a handout? What if it was payment for helping me with a project of my own?" "What kind of project?" Tyler asked, curiosity replacing caution. "I've been thinking about developing educational kits for schools, simple renewable energy projects that students could build, but I need someone to test the prototypes, see if they're actually useful and understandable for students your age." It wasn't entirely a lie. The idea had formed in Robert's mind over the past week, and the more he thought about it, the more it made sense as a potential new product line. Tyler considered this. "So I'd be like a product tester?" "Exactly. You'd build the prototypes, document what works and what doesn't, and give me honest feedback. It would be a real job. And I'd get paid actual money?" "A fair wage for your time and expertise," Robert confirmed. "Let's say $50 an hour." Tyler's eyes widened. "That's more than my mom makes at the grocery store." Robert silently cursed himself for not thinking of that. "Well, specialized technical consulting commands higher rates," he recovered smoothly. "But we should start with just a few hours a week since you have school." Tyler seemed to accept this explanation. "I'd have to ask my mom first. Of course, I wouldn't expect anything else." As if on cue, Tyler's phone beeped. "That's my alarm. Mom's appointment should be finishing soon." They walked together toward the cemetery gates, Tyler explaining his school science fair was in 3 weeks. "Maybe if I get the project working right, I could win first prize," he said, excitement creeping into his voice. "There's a $100 savings bond for the winner." At the gates, Robert made a decision. "I'd like to meet your mother, Tyler. to explain this project testing job properly. Tyler looked uncertain. She's usually pretty tired after treatment. Another time, then, Robert suggested. Maybe I could drive you both home today? My car is right here. He gestured to the sleek black Tesla parked nearby. That's your car? Tyler's voice rose in admiration. It's electric, right? With the big battery pack underneath? It is. Robert smiled at the boy's enthusiasm. Would you like to see inside? Tyler nodded eagerly, then hesitated. But I should ask my mom first. She's always saying not to go anywhere. With people I don't know well. Your mother sounds very wise, Robert said, respecting the boundary. How about I walk with you to meet her, and you can introduce us? They walked the 3 blocks to the hospital in comfortable conversation. Tyler explained his school was having a canned food drive, and he was trying to collect more than anyone else in his class. I've got 27 cans so far, he said proudly. Most of them baked beans because the store had a sale. As they approached the hospital's main entrance, Robert noticed Tyler straightening his posture and adjusting his expression to something more cheerful. A woman sat on a bench near the entrance, her face tired but brightening when she spotted her son. Linda Williams was thin, with the same serious dark eyes as Tyler, a colorful scarf wrapped around her head, and despite her obvious fatigue, she carried herself with quiet dignity. Tyler rushed to her side, speaking animatedly while gesturing back toward Robert. Robert approached slowly, giving them space for their reunion. He watched as Linda listened to her son, her eyes occasionally darting toward him with natural motherly suspicion. Mom, this is Mr. Chen, Tyler said as Robert reached them. He's Alex's dad, the one I told you about from the cemetery. Robert extended his hand. Robert Chen. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Williams. She shook his hand firmly. Linda, please. Tyler's been talking about meeting you all week. He said you helped him with his science project. Your son has an impressive mind, Robert said honestly. His understanding of engineering concepts is remarkable for his age. Linda smiled, a mixture of pride and something more complex. He's always been that way, taking apart toasters since he was 4. Tyler looked embarrassed. Mom. It's true, she insisted, ruffling his hair affectionately. I had to hide the screwdrivers. Robert noticed how Linda leaned slightly against the bench, the subtle signs of someone conserving energy. I was just offering Tyler a ride home. My car is parked nearby. Linda hesitated, her protective instincts visible. It's a Tesla, Mom, Tyler added eagerly. All electric with regenerative braking. A small smile touched Linda's lips. You've made quite an impression, she told Robert. But we usually take the bus, it's not far. I insist, Robert said gently. Please. Something in his tone must have convinced her, because after a moment she nodded. That's very kind of you. During the drive, Robert explained his proposal about Tyler testing prototype kits. He was careful to frame it as a legitimate job opportunity, not charity. Linda listened thoughtfully before responding. It sounds like a wonderful opportunity, but I'm concerned about Tyler taking on too much with school and everything else. It would be just a few hours a week, Robert assured her, and entirely on your schedule. As they pulled up to the apartment building where the Williams lived, Robert tried not to react to the conditions. The building was run down, with peeling, paint and security bars on the ground floor windows. Thank you for the ride, Linda said as Tyler jumped out to open her door. And for the opportunity you're offering Tyler. Could I have your business card? I'd like to think about it. Robert handed her his card, watching as her eyes widened slightly at his full title. You're that Robert Chen, the Chen Technologies founder? He nodded, suddenly uncomfortable with the recognition. Linda looked at him, with new understanding. Why is someone like you spending time with my son at a cemetery? The directness of her question caught him off guard. Your son reminds me of mine, he said simply, the truth surprising even himself. And of me. When I was his age. Linda studied him for a long moment before nodding. I'll call you about the job, she said finally. And Robert? Thank you for being kind to him. It means more than you know." As he drove away, Robert found himself thinking about the small apartment they had disappeared into, about the bus they usually took, about the $27 Tyler had saved for his science project. He thought about the canned food drive and the worn notebook and the hospital appointments. He pulled over to the side of the road and made a phone call. "James, I need you to set up a new foundation today and find me everything you can on cancer treatment options at Stanford Medical." For the first time in 5 years, Robert felt the fog of grief lifting, replaced by a sense of purpose he had almost forgotten. 2 weeks passed, and Robert found himself looking forward to Thursday mornings more than any other time of the week. After meeting Linda, he had kept his distance for a few days, not wanting to overstep. But when she called to accept his job offer for Tyler, things had changed quickly. The solar panel prototype kit arrived at their apartment the next day. Robert had personally selected the components, making sure they were high quality while still appearing reasonably priced. Tyler called him that evening, excitement bubbling through his voice as he described opening the package. Today, Robert sat in his office, staring at the medical files on his desk. His team had compiled everything available on Linda's type of cancer, along with a list of specialists and experimental treatments. The prognosis wasn't good with standard care, but there were options, expensive ones, that showed promise. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Chen, Dr. Powell from Stanford Medical is on line 1. Robert picked up the phone. "Thomas, thank you for calling back." "Robert, it's been too long," the doctor replied warmly. They had been roommates in college before their paths diverged, Robert to technology, Thomas to medicine. "Your message sounded urgent. I need a favor," Robert said, getting straight to the point. "A big one." 20 minutes later, Robert ended the call with a plan in place. Now came the hard part. Approaching Linda without wounding her pride or making her feel like a charity case. The solution came from an unexpected source. As Robert drove to the cemetery for his weekly meeting with Tyler, his phone rang with a call from his company's HR director. "Mr. Chen, I wanted to update you on the health insurance expansion you requested for the new educational division. The board approved it unanimously. The comprehensive coverage will be available to all employees, even part-time consultants, effective immediately." Robert smiled. "Excellent news, Diane, thank you." When he arrived at the cemetery, Tyler was already there, kneeling by Alex's grave. Robert had grown accustomed to the sight, no longer feeling the stab of jealousy he'd initially experienced at seeing someone else visit his son. "I brought pictures of the prototype," Tyler said after their usual greeting. He pulled a folder from his backpack. "I documented everything like you asked." Robert examined the photographs, impressed by the neat assembly and careful wiring. "This is excellent work, Tyler. Professional quality." The boy beamed at the praise. "It works too. It charges my mom's phone faster than I thought it would." His smile faltered slightly. "The only problem is she hasn't needed it much this week. She's been too sick to go to work, so she's mostly at home." Robert kept his expression neutral despite the concern that flared inside him. "I'm sorry to hear that. Is she getting the care she needs?" Tyler shrugged in that heartbreakingly adult way he had. "The doctor says the chemo is working how it's supposed to, but it makes her really tired and sick sometimes. She says it's normal." "It is," Robert agreed. "But that doesn't make it any easier." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Tyler, I wanted to talk to you about something important. It's about your job as a product tester." "Did I do something wrong?" Worry crept into the boy's voice. "No, absolutely not. In fact, you've done such good work that I've decided to make it official. My company is establishing a new educational division, and I'd like to hire you as our first junior consultant." Tyler's eyes widened. "A real job at your company?" "A real job," Robert confirmed, "with proper paperwork and everything. And because it would be an official position, it comes with benefits." "What kind of benefits?" "Health insurance," Robert said casually, as if he weren't carefully navigating a minefield. "For you and your mother, since you're a dependent." Our company plan is quite comprehensive. It covers experimental treatments, specialists, everything. Tyler went very still. Health insurance like good health insurance? The best, Robert said simply. My mom... Tyler looked down at his hands. She had to switch to the county clinic when she got sick. Her old insurance from work wasn't covering much, and then she had to cut her hours. He looked up, his eyes shining with something between hope and suspicion. Is this real? Or are you just trying to help us because you feel sorry for us? Robert met the boy's gaze directly. The job is real. Your skills are real. The insurance is real. But yes, I also want to help. Are those things mutually exclusive? Tyler considered this, his young face serious. My mom says pride is important, but being stupid is not. A startled laugh escaped Robert. Your mother is a wise woman. So how would this work? Tyler asked, practical even in his excitement. You'd need to come to the office once a week for meetings. You'd continue testing prototypes and providing feedback. We'd pay you a fair salary, and the benefits would start immediately. Robert pulled out a folder from his briefcase. Here's the official offer letter and benefits package. Your mother would need to sign it, of course. Tyler took the folder reverently. Can I tell her today? I think that would be a good idea, Robert said. In fact, I was hoping I might come with you to explain the technical details. That afternoon, Robert found himself sitting in the Williams' small living room. The apartment was clean but sparse with furniture that had seen better days. What struck him most were the books, shelves overflowing with them, stacked on every available surface. Linda sat across from him, the offer letter in her hands. She looked worse than when he'd seen her 2 weeks ago, her face drawn with fatigue, but her eyes were sharp as ever. This is a very generous offer, Robert, she said finally. Suspiciously generous. He'd expected this. The educational division has been in development for some time. Tyler's insights have been valuable. And the timing of the health insurance expansion, the fact that it covers experimental cancer treatments, she raised an eyebrow. Just a happy coincidence? Mom, Tyler said from his perch on the arm of her chair. Maybe it doesn't matter why. Maybe what matters is that it helps. Linda looked at her son, then back at Robert. He's right, of course. She sighed. I've been proud all my life, Robert. Too proud sometimes. But I'm also a mother and I want to see my son grow up. Her voice cracked slightly on the last words. Then say yes, Robert said quietly. What's the catch? There's always a catch. Robert thought for a moment. The catch is that you'll have to put up with me being in your lives. I don't do anything halfway, Linda. If I commit to this, to helping Tyler, to this new division, I'm all in. Something in his tone must have convinced her, because she nodded slowly. All right, we accept. She picked up a pen and signed the documents with a steady hand. 3 days later, Linda had her first appointment at Stanford Medical Center. Robert arranged for a private car to take them, though he was careful not to show up himself. This wasn't about his ego or public recognition. For the first time in years, he was doing something that felt genuinely right, not just profitable or strategic. While Linda met with the specialists, Robert took Tyler to the university's engineering department. He'd arranged a tour with the dean, an old colleague who owed him a favor. As they walked through the robotics lab, Tyler's eyes were wide with wonder. People actually get to work here every day? They do, Robert confirmed. And someday, if you want, you could too. You really think I'm smart enough? I know you are. Robert placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Your mind works in extraordinary ways, Tyler. All you need are the right opportunities. Later, as they waited for Linda to finish her consultation, Tyler grew quiet. What are you thinking about? Robert asked. Alex, the boy said simply. I was wondering if he liked science stuff too. Robert felt the familiar ache, but it was softer now, less raw. He did. He was building a robot when he was your age, not a very good one, he added with a small smile. It kept running into walls. Tyler laughed. That's because he probably needed to adjust the sensor threshold. Probably, Robert agreed, amazed at how easy it was becoming to talk about his son. You would have liked each other, I think. I think so too, Tyler said. He hesitated, then added, Is it weird that I still talk to him sometimes at the cemetery? No, Robert said firmly. It's not weird at all. When Linda emerged from her consultation, there was something different in her face, a cautious hope that hadn't been there before. The doctor says there's a clinical trial, she told them. Something new they're developing here. He thinks I might be a good candidate. Robert knew this already, he'd made sure of it, but he kept his expression neutral. That sounds promising. It is, Linda agreed. She looked at him directly. Thank you, Robert. Not just for the insurance, but for giving Tyler something to be excited about. Something to hope for. As they walked to the car, Tyler slipped his hand into Robert's, a gesture so natural and unexpected that Robert felt his heart constrict. This small hand in his, trusting and warm, reminded him of another, and long ago. But for the first time, the memory brought comfort rather than pain. Robert looked up at the clear blue sky and thought, not for the first time, that life had a strange way of bringing things full circle. Sometimes you had to lose everything to find what you never knew you needed. 6 months had passed since Linda started the clinical trial at Stanford. Spring had turned to summer, and now the leaves were beginning to change color again. Robert stood at his office window, watching the gardeners tending the immaculate grounds of Chen Technologies campus. Mr. Chen? His assistant's voice pulled him from his thoughts. They're ready for you in the conference room. Robert nodded, gathering the presentation folder from his desk. Today was an important day, the official launch of Chen Educational Technologies, the new division that had grown from a simple idea into something far bigger than he had initially imagined. As he walked toward the conference room, his phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Tyler. Good luck today. Mom says to knock 'em dead. Robert smiled, typing back a quick thanks. Over the past months, his life had changed in ways he couldn't have predicted. What had begun as a chance, meeting at a cemetery, had evolved into something that felt remarkably like family. Linda's response to the treatment had been better than even the doctors had expected. The aggressive cancer was in retreat, and though she still had bad days, they were becoming less frequent. She had started working part-time at Chen Technologies, in the Human Resources Department, her organizational skills and straightforward manner making her a natural fit. And Tyler, Robert felt a swell of pride thinking about the boy's progress. His science project had not only won first place at his school, but had gone on to win at the regional level. The local newspaper had run a story about the young inventor and his solar charging station, complete with a photo of Tyler demonstrating how it worked. There he is. A hearty voice greeted him as he entered the conference room. Michael Patel, the head of product development, waved him over. The man of the hour. The room was filled with executives, board members, and a few carefully selected journalists. This wasn't just another product launch. It was the beginning of something Robert believed could truly make a difference. Are we all set? Robert asked, scanning the room. Just waiting on our star consultant, Michael replied with a grin, as if, on cue, the door opened and Tyler walked in, looking both nervous and excited in his new button-up shirt and khaki pants. Linda followed behind him, her headscarf replaced by a short pixie cut of new hair growth, a visual reminder of her improving health. Sorry we're late, she apologized. Someone couldn't decide which tie looked more professional. She gave Tyler an affectionate nudge. The blue one was the right choice, Robert assured him, straightening the tie slightly. Ready? Tyler nodded, his expression turning serious. Ready. Robert turned to address the room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. 6 months ago, Chen Technologies made a commitment to expand our focus beyond corporate solutions to address educational needs in communities across the country. He gestured toward the display of prototype kits arranged on the conference table. Today we're launching our first line of educational renewable energy kits, designed to make hands-on science accessible to every student, regardless of their school's budget or resources. As Robert continued his presentation, he watched the faces around the room. The board members looked pleased. Early projections showed the educational division would be profitable within 2 years, faster than anticipated. The journalists were taking notes, clearly interested in the human angle of a tech giant moving into education. But perhaps the most important aspect of this initiative, Robert continued, is that these kits were developed with direct input from our target users, students themselves. He turned to Tyler. I'd like to introduce our lead junior consultant, Tyler Williams, who will demonstrate how these kits work. Tyler stepped forward, his initial nervousness falling away as he began, explaining the solar kit he had helped design. His clear explanations and obvious enthusiasm captivated the room. Robert caught Linda's eye across the table and saw her blinking back tears of pride. The best part, Tyler was saying, is that you don't need any special tools or previous knowledge. Anyone can build these, and once you do, you understand how solar energy actually works, not just in theory. When the presentation ended, the room erupted in applause. Board members crowded around to congratulate them, and journalists requested interviews. In the midst of the excitement, Robert felt a tug on his sleeve. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Tyler asked quietly. "In private?" Concerned by the boy's serious expression, Robert nodded and led him to his private office down the hall. "What's on your mind?" he asked once they were alone. Tyler fidgeted with his tie. "I wanted to ask you something important, really important. You can ask me anything, you know that." The boy took a deep breath. "My mom's birthday is next month." Robert nodded, waiting for more. "And I wanted to get her something special, because of everything that's happened this year, and because she's doing so much better now." Tyler's words came faster as he continued. "I've been saving my consulting money, but what I want to get her is kind of expensive." "What did you have in mind?" Robert asked, curious. "A house," Tyler said simply. Robert blinked in surprise. "A house?" Tyler nodded earnestly. "Not a big one or anything, but one with a yard and maybe a garage where I could set up a workshop. Our apartment building got sold last month, and the new owner is raising all the rents. Mom's worried about it, I can tell." Robert sat down, gesturing for Tyler to take the chair opposite him. "That's a very thoughtful idea, but even a small house costs quite a lot of money." "I know," Tyler said, his expression serious beyond his years. "I've saved $1,140 so far. Is that enough for a down payment?" The earnestness of the question made Robert's heart twist. "Not quite," he said gently, "but I might have a solution if you're open to a partnership." Tyler's face brightened. "Like a business partnership?" "Something like that," Robert said, an idea taking shape in his mind. "What if we found a house that needed some work, fixing up, renovating, and made that part of your next project?" "You mean like those shows where they take old houses and make them nice again?" "Exactly. It could be the flagship project for our next educational kit, Home Renewable Energy Systems." Robert was warming to the idea now. "We'd document the whole process, from selection to renovation to installation of solar panels and energy-efficient systems." Tyler's eyes were wide. "And we could live there? Me and Mom?" "That would be the plan. You'd be consulting on the project, and part of your compensation would be equity in the property." Robert used the technical terms deliberately, wanting Tyler to understand this wasn't charity but a legitimate arrangement. "What's equity?" "Ownership," Robert explained. "You'd own part of the house from the beginning, and have the option to buy more over time. Your mother would need to agree, of course." Tyler's face broke into a huge smile. "She'd still be paying for it, just like rent?" "Yes, but building ownership instead of just paying someone else." "Can we start looking right away?" Tyler asked, excitement bubbling over. Robert laughed. "We'll need to work out the details first, but yes, we can start soon." When they returned to the conference room, Linda looked at them questioningly. "Everything okay?" "Just discussing our next project," Robert said smoothly, giving Tyler a conspiratorial wink. Later that evening, After the excitement of the launch had settled, Robert drove Linda and Tyler home. As they passed through a quiet neighborhood of modest homes with neat yards, he noticed Tyler studying each house intently. "Mom, wouldn't it be cool to live in a house like those?" the boy asked casually. Linda smiled, though there was a touch of sadness in it. "Someday, maybe. I think someday might be sooner than you think," Robert said, catching her curious glance in the rearview mirror. After dropping them off, Robert didn't head home immediately. Instead, he drove to the cemetery, feeling a need to visit Alex's grave. The evening was peaceful, the setting sun casting long shadows across the headstones. "We launched the educational division today," he said quietly, sitting on the bench near his son's grave. "It went well. Really well." A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby oak tree. "I think you'd like Tyler," Robert continued. "He has your curiosity, your way of seeing possibilities in everything." He paused, feeling the familiar ache that came with talking about his son, but it was different now, bittersweet rather than unbearable. "I'm going to help them buy a house," he said after a moment. "Something modest in a good school district, somewhere Tyler can set up that workshop he keeps talking about." Robert smiled at the thought. He wants to surprise his mother for her birthday. He's been saving his money. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Robert felt a sense of peace settle over him. For the first time in years, he was looking forward to the future instead of dwelling in the past. "I think I'm finally doing something right, Alex," he whispered. "Something that would make you and your mother proud." The next morning, Robert called his real estate agent. "I need you to find a property," he explained. "Something special. Not too big, not too flashy, but with good bones and potential, and it needs to be ready by next month." "What's the occasion?" the agent asked. Robert smiled to himself. "A birthday surprise, the most important one I've ever planned." Linda's birthday fell on a perfect autumn Saturday. The morning air was crisp, leaves crunched underfoot, and the sky was a brilliant blue that seemed to go on forever. Robert checked his watch as he pulled up in front of the Williams apartment building. It was 9:30 a.m., right on schedule. Tyler burst through the front door before Robert could even get out of the car. The boy was practically vibrating with excitement, a small gift-wrapped package clutched in his hands. "Is everything ready?" he asked breathlessly as he climbed into the passenger seat. "Everything's ready," Robert assured him with a smile. Operation Birthday Surprise is a go. They had been planning this day for weeks. Robert had found the perfect house. A modest 3-bedroom craftsman with a detached garage that could easily be converted into a workshop. It needed some updating, but the structure was sound, and it sat on a corner lot with mature trees in a neighborhood with good schools. Most importantly, it was only a 15-minute drive from Chen Technologies. The real estate agent had thought Robert was crazy when he explained what he wanted to do: purchase the house through his foundation, but set up a rent-to-own agreement that would give Tyler and Linda immediate equity and a pathway to full ownership. The paperwork had been complicated, but Robert had good lawyers. Everything was signed and finalized yesterday. "Mom thinks we're just going out for breakfast and then to that science museum exhibit," Tyler said, carefully placing his wrapped gift in the glove compartment. "She has no idea." "Did she suspect anything when the movers came yesterday to pick up your boxes?" Robert asked. They had secretly packed most of Tyler's belongings over the past week, storing them in Robert's garage until yesterday when they were delivered to the new house. "Nope. I told her I was donating some old stuff to make room for my new projects. She was too busy getting ready for her presentation at work to notice exactly what I was packing." Linda had flourished in her role at Chen Technologies. What had started as a part-time position had evolved into a leadership role overseeing community outreach for the educational division. Her practical approach and genuine passion for creating opportunities for underprivileged students had made her an invaluable team member. "Let's go get your mom," Robert said, feeling a flutter of anticipation. He hadn't been this excited about anything in years. Linda was waiting for them in the lobby, looking healthier than Robert had ever seen her. Her hair had grown back fully now, framing her face in soft curls. The clinical trial had been a success, beyond anyone's expectations, and last month her doctors had used the word remission for the first time. Happy birthday. Robert greeted her as she got into the back seat. Thank you, she smiled. Though I'm still not sure why my birthday requires such an elaborate schedule. Tyler's been checking his watch every 5 minutes since he woke up. We've got a busy day planned, Robert explained smoothly. First stop, breakfast at Oakwood Cafe. The cafe was one of Linda's favorites, a small family-owned place that served enormous blueberry pancakes, her weakness. As they ate, Robert and Tyler exchanged nervous glances, both fighting to contain their excitement about what was coming next. All right, you two are acting strange, Linda said finally, setting down her fork. What's going on? Nothing, they answered in unison, which only made her more suspicious. We just want your birthday to be special, Tyler added, reaching into his pocket. Here, this is from me. Open it now. He handed her a small box wrapped in blue paper with a slightly crushed silver bow. Linda unwrapped it carefully, lifting the lid to reveal a delicate silver keychain with a small solar panel that powered a tiny LED light. I made it myself, Tyler said proudly. So you'll always have light, even in the dark. Linda's eyes glistened as she hugged her son. It's beautiful, Tyler, thank you. There's something else too, he said, barely able to contain himself. But it's not here. We have to go see it. After paying the bill, they got back in the car. Instead of heading toward the Science Museum as Linda expected, Robert turned in the opposite direction. Aren't we going the wrong way? She asked, confused. We have a quick stop to make first, Robert said mysteriously. 20 minutes later, they pulled onto a tree-lined street of well-maintained older homes. Robert slowed down as they approached a house with a sold sign in the front yard. A large, red bow had been attached to the sign. What are we doing here? Linda asked as Robert parked in front of the house. Tyler couldn't contain himself any longer. Surprise, happy birthday, Mom. Linda looked between them, confusion clear on her face. I don't understand. Tyler pulled the keychain from his pocket and held it up. This isn't just any keychain. He reached into Robert's jacket pocket and pulled out a house key, attaching it to the ring. It's for this. What? Linda's voice was barely a whisper. Robert stepped in, seeing the overwhelming emotions on her face. Let me explain. This house is part of a new project for Chen Educational Technologies, a demonstration home for residential renewable energy systems. Tyler will be consulting on the installation and monitoring of the systems. But Linda was struggling to understand, and as part of his compensation package, you two will have equity in the property from day one with a path to full ownership. Robert continued gently. Your monthly payments will be less than what you're paying for your apartment now. Linda looked at the house, then back at Robert. This is too much, she said, her voice unsteady. Mom, Tyler said earnestly, remember when you told me that pride is important but being stupid is not? Well, this isn't charity. It's a business arrangement that benefits everyone, and his voice grew softer. I really want us to have a home, a real one, with a yard and everything. Linda's expression softened as she looked at her son. You did this? You planned all of this? It was my idea, Tyler said proudly, but Robert helped with the details. Would you like to see inside? Robert asked, offering her the key. The tour of the house was filled with exclamations of delight from Tyler and tears from Linda. Each room had been thoughtfully prepared, basic furniture in place, the kitchen stocked with essentials, and Tyler's bedroom already set up with his things. The backyard had a small patio and plenty of space for a garden. The detached garage was empty except for a workbench and a set of new tools with a big bow on them, another surprise for Tyler. This is the solar control center, Robert explained, showing them a panel in the utility room. All the monitoring equipment is here. The roof already has the initial array installed, but part of the project will be expanding it over time. As Linda walked through what would be her bedroom, she paused at the window looking out at the backyard where Tyler was already exploring. I don't know what to say, Robert, she said quietly. This is beyond anything I could have imagined. You don't need to say anything, he replied. Just seeing your faces is enough. She turned to face him. Why? Why would you do all this for us? Robert thought carefully before answering. When I met Tyler at Alex's grave, I was just going through the motions of living. I had success, wealth, everything people think they want, but I felt nothing. He paused, looking out at Tyler, who was measuring the garage with his arms. You and Tyler reminded me what it means to be alive, to care about something, to look forward to tomorrow. Linda's eyes filled with understanding. We've all been healing each other, haven't we? Before Robert could answer, Tyler burst back into the house. Mom, there's a treehouse in the backyard, a real one. And Robert says we can use it as a weather station for the renewable energy project. Linda laughed, wiping away tears. Slow down, Tyler. We have time to explore everything. We have all the time in the world, Robert said softly. That evening, after pizza on the new patio furniture and Tyler's enthusiastic tour of every corner of the property, Robert prepared to leave. The moving truck with the rest of their belongings would arrive tomorrow, and he wanted to give them space to settle in. Will you come to our housewarming party next weekend? Tyler asked as he walked Robert to his car. You can bring anyone you want. Robert smiled. I wouldn't miss it for the world. As he drove away, he took a different route home, one that passed by the cemetery. The gates were closed for the night, but Robert slowed as he passed, looking toward where he knew Alex's grave lay beneath the old oak tree. I think we did good, Alex, he said quietly. Really good. 3 weeks later, Robert stood at his son's grave, not alone as he had been for so many years, but with Tyler and Linda beside him. They had brought flowers, sunflowers for Alex, just as Robert always had. I think he would have liked the treehouse weather station, Tyler said thoughtfully as they stood together. Maybe we could name the project after him, the Alex Chen Renewable Energy Education Initiative. Robert felt something shift in his chest, not the familiar pain, but something lighter, something like joy. I think that's a perfect idea. As they walked back toward the car together, Linda gently took Robert's hand on one side while Tyler bounded ahead, already talking about their next project. Robert looked up at the clear autumn sky and felt, for the first time in many years, completely at peace. Sometimes life's greatest gifts come from the most unexpected places, he thought. Sometimes you find family where you least expect it, and sometimes when you're lucky, you get a second chance to make a difference in the world. He smiled as Tyler called for them to hurry up. They had plans to make, a future to build, together.